Hello!
Hello AOS fans!
It's the agents of Underworlds.
And in this video we're asking, have Games Workshop ruined Underworlds?
I think since the announcement a few weeks ago that Embergard was on its way, the internet collectively lost its mind in one of two ways.
Absolutely. People have lost their minds basically saying that Games Workshop has no idea how to design the game that they designed. Yeah. These people had never played this game before GW designed it, they fell in love with it, and now GW are changing it. GW don't know what they're doing, even though they designed the thing in the first place.
I think if we're all truly honest with ourselves, Underworlds was due an overhaul.
Yeah, if you've played this game for any length of time, you must have noticed it was starting to creak.
Yeah, there was so many warbands and so many cards. It was just becoming unmanageable. Even for veteran players such as ourselves, who were in it since day -1, it was just getting over the top.
The little interactions weren't working, and a lot of the wording needed tightening up. I mean, a really simple example of why Underworlds needed to change is if you just look at the word objectives.
Yeah.
In Underworlds, the original Underworlds, what is an objective? It's two things. It's a card and it's a thing on the board. And that caused all sorts of confusion.
And you could have objective objectives or regular objectives. And if you try and explain that to a new person, that is not a very straightforward conversation to have.
I mean, it's easy enough to understand and we've all managed it, but actually if you're bringing it into a brand new game, it makes much more sense to say call them treasure tokens. But of course, if you're going to make that wording change, then you end up inevitably invalidating loads of old cards.
Dozens and dozens of cards.
So you can't deny that the changing it to treasure tokens makes perfect sense, and if you can't deny that bit, then you kind of have to say, well, we are going to do it, and then we have to then therefore invalidate all those cards because they just don't make any sense anymore and you can't retroactively fit them. So the only thing you can do is basically throw everything out.
And another good key indicator of how much the game needed a revamp is the errata. It was huge, and there were pages and pages of it, and it is totally unfair, I think, to expect newer players to have to go and look for all of that information when they want to play a basic game, or they want to go to their first tournament even.
Well, to be fair, even older players. The Thrice Fall Discard, I've been playing them, and it's just like, oh, that's right. I go, yeah, of course it is, I forgot.
So as Robin said just now, whenever you make a big change that is a fundamental thing that needs to be done, you're going to invalidate a lot of cards. And if you're going to invalidate a lot of cards, you might as well just take a hatchet to the whole thing and just try and build it again, but better. But when's the best time to do that?
Well, the best time, obviously, would have been to got it right first time.
Yeah. Considering
that that's impossible and nobody gets everything right first time, the best time is now. Yeah. There is no time in the future with adding more products and more warbands and more cards that changing it was ever going to get easier.
Yeah.
So if you admit it's got to be done, then it's got to be done now.
I think some people sit there and they feel that GW is being a little bit underhanded with the way they did some of the stuff. I mean, we were all clamouring to get that Mirrored City box only about 5 months ago, only to now find that actually the only thing that's useful in it is the plastic. Yes, there's an element of that, but if GW were to turn around to us 18 months ago and say there's going to be a new version of Underworlds in 18 months, people mostly probably would have just stopped playing it then.
Yeah, we're not going to release anything for 18 months. Yeah. We're going to have gone home.
Yeah, or we're going to release a whole new product in 18 months and it's going to invalidate everything you buy between now and then. But here's some new stuff. No one's going to buy that.
No. Everything in life these days is a rolling release.
Yeah.
And sometimes rolling releases catch out the people buying it, and that's just you. Whatever you're buying into, I think that's a truism pretty much, and it's certainly anything hobby related.
Especially Games Workshop, they do love their rolling releases.
The ever increasing warband pool was making playtesting impossible. We've talked about that many times before, and it also made it really confusing for new players. Yep. For example, Lady Harrows has been suddenly become really good. It's a really strong deck. People are loving it. It was looking like it was going to be played heavily at the World Championships. But if you are new to it, it's kind of like, well, how do I get that? You've got to go and build a time machine, go back to 2018 and buy it in the shops. There's pretty much no other way to get it right now.
Yeah, unless you manage to find a box tucked at the back of your LFGS, you've got almost no chance of getting them unless you go and print the cards out or you go and buy them on eBay. There's not a good way of doing it.
No, and nobody should have to do that to play the game. So you're just left with buying what you can buy, and GW have said that in future, everything that's going to be tournament legal will be purchasable from them, which actually I think is a really brilliant move.
And I know, again, this is going to come back to some people saying, but I bought all these warbands 6 years ago and I can't play them anymore. You did buy them 6 years ago, so I think it's time to buy something new now.
I bought my kettle 6 years ago, I've had to buy a new one.
Oh, it's disgusting.
We think warband rotation was inevitable. In fact, we thought this for quite some time, so much so that we made a video about it.
Yeah, we got a little bit lambasted on that one as well, but it turns out we were right.
So a lot of people complain that GW are invalidating all of their old stuff.
Well, yes.
But actually no.
They are invalidating some of your old stuff.
But GW have said 16 warbands will be available for tournaments.
And the ones that aren't, they are going to be producing PDS4 that will be free to download online, so you can still play it with the legacy warbands, they're going to be terming it, and you're going to be able to play with all your old stuff, whether you're at a club or at home with your friends.
You're absolutely right, Pete. You can keep playing with all your old stuff. GW are not going to come round to your house and take it off you.
Yeah, Nick's quite tall. He's not that scary though.
And if you out there are about to say, but nobody will be playing that version soon, then have a stop, take a look in the mirror, and think about why that might be.
Yeah, I think if everybody starts playing version 2, that probably tells you something about version 1. Another thing that a lot of people have been moaning about online is the fact that deck building's just gone now.
Well, no.
But actually, no.
So the faction decks have gone, and it is true that this does remove some of the flavour of the game.
Yeah, there's a little bit being removed, but there are two observations that we can make from this.
The first one is, although warbands like the Loon Court and the Frightful Discord and Zondaras were very flavoursome, they got that flavour purely from breaking the rules, changing the rules. They all had ways in which they uniquely changed how the rules worked, and that's just really confusing for new players.
Yeah, it really adds more complexity to the game, where every game you play, you've then got to think about a whole new different set of extra special rules that aren't applicable to anybody else. Yeah,
so you take the Loon Court, for example, one of the cardinal things of the game is how the objectives work. And you're playing somebody new and you immediately have to tell them that that's not how objectives work for this warband. And they're like, what?
And let's not talk about Thrice or Discord and all the different things they had going on, because that frankly just really gave me a headache.
Our second reason is our old friend, the faction fraction decks.
Yeah.
Back in the day, when Underworlds was in its infancy, we had to introduce a sort of homebrewed rule that we would include, I think, at least a third of cards that were from the faction. And the reason for that is because there were so many good universal cards that people didn't even bother taking the faction cards.
Yeah, you'd have an upgrade for Garrick that would give him +1 damage, but it was only for Garrick, and then they brought Great Strength. And you'd be like, why would I take the Garrick card when I could take Great Strength and it's usable on everybody?
Yeah, now there are some people who do play for flavour. Hello, Henry. But for most Underworld players, even if they protest otherwise, if there were 32 better universal cards that they could take, they would take them.
And the only times generally when you took all of your warband cards is when it created its own broken little combination, which meant you had to take all of them in the first place, and that was the only thing making you take them, not because they were very flavourful.
No, so though we are going to lose a bit of flavour, bland is efficient, and efficient means winning games, and that's the route people will take.
As of recording this video, GW haven't actually told us exactly what the new deck building rules are yet.
No, but as a minimum, it's got to be take 2 decks and smoosh them together.
Yeah.
And seeing there aren't any faction decks, it's got to be 2 decks that aren't faction related.
And as we're only getting one of each of the 4 types of decks, it can't be take 2 of the same type of deck and put them together, because you haven't got that in the box.
Seems very unlikely. So this actually means we're already going to have more deck building combinations than we had under the Nemesis format rules, which have been like king for the last 2 years.
And we've actually managed to prove this mathematically, so scientifically it's better, and we're going to try and explain to you very quickly how.
So for version 1 of Underworlds, Nemesis rules, you've got 1 warband deck, 1 Nemesis deck.
And you always had to have your warband deck.
Yeah, so you have your 1 faction deck, and then you have 1 combination for every single Rivals deck. So if there are 6 Rivals decks, you've got 6 different decks.
6 different decks.
Yeah.
But in the new version, you're not going to have that warband deck, you're just going to have 2 Rivals decks. So if you've got 6 Rivals decks, how many is that, Robin?
Well, it's the same, Pete, as the old handshake problem. How many people, different people, we have to have handshakes. We've got different people in the rooms. And it's actually related to triangle numbers.
Yep.
It's equal to n times n minus 1 all over 2. So for 4 decks, we get 6 combinations. For 5 decks, we get 10. And for 6, we have 15.
So 15 combinations out of 6 decks. Whereas in the old version of 6 decks, you'd actually only get 5 combinations if one of those was the warband deck. But if you had the warband deck and 6 others, so that's more than 6 decks, you'd only get 6 combinations instead of 15.
So deck building is already better, or if not better, is at least more varied than it was under the Nemesis format.
Also, in this new version, you're going to use a lot more of the card you purchase, because you buy a Rivals deck, you're going to use a certain number of those cards. If you buy a second Rivals deck, you can then use cards from both those. If you have a Nemesis deck in the old system, you've got your Warband deck and you've got 2 Rivals decks, you can only use 2 of those.
Yeah, and if you're not playing with that Warband, all those cards are useless. Whereas here, you're always using from the same card pool all the time, smaller card pool all the time.
Yeah, so you're going to get a higher level of usage out of the smaller number of cards that you buy, which frankly I think most people want to get more use out of what they've got.
100%. Now, it probably hasn't escaped your attention, but GW have changed the artwork. Does this matter?
I don't think so.
There was something nice about the card art.
There was.
I can't deny it, but like all things, some art was better than others.
Yeah.
But mainly the thing it didn't affect was the gameplay.
Yeah, you play a game and you could pretty much cut the top half off of most of your cards and it's not going to change how you play the game whatsoever.
No, absolutely. And I know some people really dig the artwork or they love the artwork and whatever. However, that isn't most people, I don't think. I think most people couldn't have told you what was on their cards at all other than the text and how they functioned.
Yeah, and I think some people use the excuse that the artwork told them how the deck or the warband played. And I think that's not really that true, because there were some cards where you'd look at, especially like objective cards, and they'd have certain warbands on and you'd think, I would never take this warband with this objective card. It would just never get played. Yeah.
So Games Workshop have replaced the artwork with photographs of their miniatures. Games Workshop, what is their main function?
They're selling something, but I can't remember what.
It's miniatures, Pete.
Oh yes.
This new artwork, photographs, it showcases their kind of premium product. And not only their premium product, I think anybody who plays Underworlds would definitely say that the Underworlds figures are some of the best that they make. Yep. So it actually shows the best of the best of the cards. And so for that, we're pretty lucky.
Not only is it the best of the best, but it's also slightly touched up with some extra special effects as well to make those cards even better looking.
Yeah, so I was really quite pleased to see that, because I didn't really notice that in the original previews, and it's quite nice to see that, and there is a bit of artistry in it as well. It's not just a straight point and click.
It's also worth pointing out that, yeah, the artwork was nice, but the models are also artwork in their own right, the painting of them.
As is the paint jobs, yeah.
Exactly. So it's not really so much removing the artwork as changing the medium of the artwork.
And obviously some people prefer different mediums to others. But there is a practical consideration as well.
Yeah, GW are all about the plastic. They do all of that in-house and they do it pretty well.
Yeah, they have had a problem, however, with some of their card stock.
And Underworlds has a lot of card stock.
So commissioning hundreds of pictures for each season is time consuming and I imagine costly, and gives them a logistical headache. They've got to get everything in the right place at the right time to make sure it's printed and over here, over the boats, whatever. And that is just a logistical nightmare that I'm guessing they less have now, because they have the photographs in-house and it's all done by themselves. Yeah,
as soon as the heavy metal team has painted those models up, they can give them over to the photographers who can then pose them all, take those pictures, give all the nice little effects on them and send them off to get printed without having to wait for people to draw a lot of artwork, basically.
So okay, this decision is purely a commercial one. It's purely to save money, but Games Workshop is a company, and companies exist to make money. That's if they didn't make money, they wouldn't be there.
No, exactly.
And whilst this isn't going to make them any money, it's going to save them money, and a pound saved
is a pound made. And don't forget that every game is judged on its own merits internally by Games Workshop, so they may make £80 million, which sounds like a lot, and why can't they give us some free card artwork? If Underworlds isn't making any money, they're going to cut it out.
Yeah, absolutely. If something doesn't make money, it doesn't get made. Simple as that. And so, while we might prefer some cool artworks and great pictures, at least with the use of photos, we do get to see some really cool paint jobs on the miniatures.
And we still get to keep playing Underworlds as well.
So to bring it back to where we started, have GW ruined Underworlds?
I don't think so. I think they've changed Underworlds, updated it.
They've streamlined it.
Yep, they've definitely revolutionised it.
So it's actually really too early to tell whether they've ruined it, but I don't think they have. They wouldn't deliberately sabotage something that they can make money out of. They just wouldn't do that.
And I do think that genuinely they think they've made a better game now.
Exactly. I mean, Nick is a genuine guy. We've spoken to him about it. He's clearly really excited about it. Everybody who's put their time and effort into this game haven't thought, well, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to use photographs and it'll really suck.
Yeah.
They've actually put time and effort because they want to make something that's really great, that we've enjoyed playing and will enjoy playing more than we've already enjoyed the last 7 years of Underworld, which on our channel and loads of people who watch it have obviously really enjoyed it. Why would GW burn that? They wouldn't.
It's worth highlighting that 7-year mark. I don't think that when they started this game 7 years ago, they thought it was going to be where it is now. And I think at a certain point, they had to make that call and say, you know what, this is just getting really bloated, really convoluted. We need to pare it all down, and we just need to make a faster, better game again.
I think certainly there aren't very many GW games that go 7 years without a major rethink, and games that Underworld is more akin to, like card games and stuff, they don't get a major reboot necessarily, but they get a lot. They have a much faster churn and rotation. So we've done well to be able to play 50 warbands for as long as we have. And we can still play them.
So hopefully you found this video useful and we've managed to talk you around on the issues that are related to Underworlds and Embergard.
Yeah, please do put in the comments below any thoughts you have about what we've said.
And if you did like this video and you want to see more content from us about Embergard, please do click that like button.
And please do click that subscribe button.
And set your notifications up so you get notified whenever we're going to be live next or we release a new video so you don't miss out.
And please do consider supporting us on Patreon, where you can hear all of our opinionated twaddle 24/7. So we're really looking forward to the release of Embergard. We've got loads of content planned when it hits the shelves, so do follow along the Ages of Sigmar.
So we'll see you soon, maybe in the Embergard.